Hello, everyone. Welcome to Drumfills Kafé. My name is Denis, and welcome to another episode of this 8th season. Thanks so much for being here with us tonight. Before we begin, I will invite you, as usual, to check out the Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and of course, TikTok pages of Drumfills Kafé. Do a little like and do a little subscription for us. We really appreciate it. Also, I would invite you to go check out the website, drumfillscafe.com, to know about all the past seasons and what's coming up in this season. So tonight, my guest, I should say, is a McGill University and Manhattan School of Music alumni. He has played with Hassan, Hakmoun, and Zahar, which opened from Peter Gabriel during the Secret World and WOMAD tours. Has also been part of the John Popper Band. James Blunt Ulmer also performed with Vernon Reid of Living Colour. He's also performed on Broadway. And also, he's one of my favorite YouTube drumming channels called Aubrey Drum Lessons. Please welcome the very well-versed, and very knowledgeable Aubrey Dayle.
All right. Hey.
How you doing, Aubrey?
I'm here.
Thanks so much for coming to our show.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for asking me to come over. This is great.
Cool. So you are I'm in Montreal, well, in the suburbs of Montreal, but you are also from sort of Montreal.
Yeah, hometown. I wasn't born there. I was born in Jamaica.
Okay.
In Jamaica. But yeah, I grew up in Point Claire, right near the Lakeshore General Hospital, for those who are versed.
I am very well versed in Point Claire.
Yeah.
I've been working there for 4 years.
Yeah, my parents, they moved there in 1970, and we all moved there. And yeah, they stayed there to the very end, which was last year. My dad left us at 101.
Oh, wow.
For all those who are wanting the secrets of a long life, eat lots of Jamaican food.
Isn't that stuff quite spicy?
Yeah, that's the last, I guess, 15 years of his life. That's all he ate. Like, it was a thing.
probably killed everything.
Yeah, whatever was coming in, it knocked it right out.
Well, that's amazing. I'm sorry for your loss, but that's an amazing long life.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but it's a funny thing, when someone lives that long, it's kind of like, hey, you won, like,
right.
It's bittersweet, I guess, is the term, right? It's always a loss. I miss him, but wow, amazing to have him so long, right?
Very cool.
Yeah.
And do you remember a bit of that when you moved from Jamaica to here, or like did you remember a bit of the transition?
Yeah, I was very little. We actually moved from Kingston to Rycroft, Alberta.
Oh, wow.
East River country, way up north in Alberta. And so that's what my mom had gotten a job. She was a teacher. She was a high school teacher.
Okay.
That was her profession. And, one of these things, she opens up the Jamaican paper, looking for teachers in northern Alberta.
Really? Wow.
Kind of like that. Yeah. So she went and got this gig. And at that time, Jamaica was taking a turn politically. I found this out just right before my dad died. He kind of let us know a lot of the reasons why we left was because that's when a lot of the violence was starting.
Okay.
And it was starting to affect him. He was an executive in a dairy company.
Okay.
And, people were being, hijacked under, like, wild stuff was starting to happen.
Okay.
So that was a motivator to seek a new existence on top of my mom getting this job. So we packed up and, like the Beverly Hillbillies, moved to northern Alberta. And a good friend of hers got her a job in Point Claire, the Lakeshore General School Board. Lakeshore School Board, not General. And then we moved over across the country to Montreal. That's how we immigrated. That was like 69, 70.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That must have been sort of I don't know if you remember, but it must have been quite a shock to go to Alberta.
Oh yeah, you know what? When it's that deep, right? When the environmental change is that intense. I was only, so I would have been like 3 or 4. You remember it. Like I remember it quite clearly. I remember looking out the airplane window and seeing this white fluffy stuff
On
falling.
top of mountains, right? Right.
What's that all about?
Right. Right.
Snow. What? What's that? And I was too young to have learned of snow, right?
Mm-hmm.
My parents knew what snow was. They just never experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff like that I remember really clearly. And then yeah, a bit of a culture shock, of course. So, but hey, I'm glad we moved there. It was good. It was good for me.
Well, yeah, because you got to play with all these people,
Well, I
and
grew up in Canada,
yeah,
in a stable country.
right, right.
So that's it was good. It was good ultimately. My
Mm-hmm.
sisters were older; they were teenagers, so they weren't quite happy about it. But ultimately, it was good for them too.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately,
Very cool.
Mhm.
I don't know enough of the history, unfortunately, of Jamaica. Like many,
Oh,
like I have to admit,
yeah,
like many, I know the music, I know some of the food,
yeah,
but it's one of those places you don't know enough. We should know more actually of the history of that
yeah.
place
Well,
because it's
it's a pretty amazing place with resilient people. A lot of my family still lives there,
Mhm.
and it's great. There's a lot of Jamaicans here, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a country that really went into debt due to the IMF and will never get out of debt. So it's sort of relegated to being a poor country,
Mm.
and like a lot of smaller, a lot of the Caribbean countries are kind of under this kind of chokehold
Okay,
from
right, right, okay.
the big banks. But hey, they survive. They survive.
Well, we're happy you were here. So we're happy you're here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So when does music start for you? Was it already back in Jamaica, or was it something that
No,
started here? Or
well, it actually started in Point Claire,
okay.
and there is evidence of it. There's pictures of me
Oh,
with my accordion. That was my first instrument.
interesting.
It was the way that my mom, very musical family in a pretty amateurish way, but very
Mhm.
talented. I shouldn't say that. One of my sisters in Jamaica is sort of uh, what would you call her? A quadruple threat. She's a cultural ambassador, so she's like a pro musician
Okay.
in Jamaica, but she's also a scientist and heads up a whole science portion of the University of West Indies.
Wow.
And so she's got her hands in a lot of pockets. She's turning 80 this year.
Oh, wow.
You think she'd be turning like 30. She's a trip. But in any case, yeah, my family is very interested in music. So my mom um, got a hold of this guy who was peddling, music lessons
Mm.
at the Quebec Conservatory of Music, he called it. So it was like a small little operation, but they taught accordion primarily. I think accordion and guitar and piano, but accordions are a typical instrument for immigrant families because it's inexpensive and
Mm.
it's small and it's not too loud, so you can have it in an apartment, and it's the way your kid can learn music. And
Mhm.
that's how we kind of pitched it, and she thought that was a good idea. So she called me in from my playing around. Disgruntled, I came in and they sat me down, put my hands on from C to G on the keyboard. Oh,
Mhm.
he's a natural.
Exactly.
I didn't play a note. Player. Oh, yeah, look at him. Looks great. He should play the accordion. I was like, whatever. So I started playing that, and honestly, I was really good at it. I was really good at it.
Okay.
It came really naturally, but I didn't
So she
like
was
it.
right. She was right.
It was right, but I didn't like the instrument. I
Yeah.
just didn't like the sound of it. I didn't get it. You know what I mean?
It,
And I
it
was
is it is quite an instrument an instrument for a young child to look at and go, huh?
yeah, like right, and I got figured out how to use the bellows, and I got real facility on my right hand
Mhm.
and left hand too. But it was like I just didn't really enjoy the fact. I mean, I'm like 5, right? I'm really little.
Mhm.
And I also didn't really understand. Like they're trying to teach me how to read music, right? So they got the flashcards. What note is this, Aubrey? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I can barely read English, let alone, and I'm learning French. Like, what? Really? What?
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot
A
coming
whole
at
lot.
you. Yeah.
So it was, but it did stick. I guess it made it
Mm,
easier for me to understand music later.
mm,
It was like, oh, that thing they were talking about. Oh, I know what this is.
mm.
So I did that till I was, well, I guess I played accordion until I was about 12.
Oh, come on. Okay, for some
Yeah,
years.
so I was really, I was playing,
Mm,
and then a friend of mine said, Aubrey, you should play the drums. That's really what you should do. Like
mm.
someone told me I should play the drums. I didn't think of it myself.
Okay. It wasn't an attraction to you didn't see someone and go, oh wow, it's just somebody
No,
posting it.
no, because it was this little scheme. They were going to make a rock band. They're going to put a rock
Mm.
band together. My friend Jonathan Pye, if he ever sees this, he was like, "We'll put this rock band together. Aubrey, you're the drummer, and then Glenn, you're going to play guitar because he had a guitar. Andy, you're bass, and I can't remember who was singing at the time. There's Basil, you're going to sing and play guitar." And it was like, okay, and we huddled around my stereo and put on "Heartbreak Hotel" by Elvis Presley
Oh, classic. Right?
and lifted it right there and played it.
Wow. Okay.
And I can't explain why I knew how to play it, but I knew how to play it.
And then play the drums, really.
And
Okay.
I just could just do it. It's like I could just do it. I heard and I go, oh, I know what that is.
Mm.
Having just seen a kick and snare that a friend of mine brought over, and I played the stick on the rim and the snare drum and the bass drum, and off we went. And that was that.
That's very cool.
That's how it started for me.
Very
Yeah.
nice. And did you guys make a rock band? Did it happen afterwards or?
Actually made a rock band, yeah. We actually did. And so this is like the late 70s, and we started playing like the Ramones and
Ah, nice.
Black Sabbath and Ted Nugent,
Right.
Budgie, all kinds of stuff. These rock tunes, I think we did Grand Funk,
Mhm.
yeah, and which are looking back, it was like, hey, that's good stuff to learn, good Led Zeppelin, good stuff to learn. And then as we got better over the years, there was a teacher's strike in 1980, and well, great, we got to play all day for
That's
a
true.
few weeks,
That's true.
and so they came over to the house, and I had very patient parents, by the way.
Yeah, because that was my question. Where are you practicing all this stuff?
Yeah, well, we practiced in my parents' basement and in and two other basements. In fact, they had a meeting. The parents had a meeting
Really? Okay.
and made an agreement, like, okay, we'll
That's
spend
pretty cool.
this amount of time at our place, and then boom and boom and from house to house. And it was like an open door policy. If any of the kids wanted to come over and play their instrument, they were welcome.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Seriously,
so
that's
I could
amazing.
go to like my drums were somewhere else. I could go to to that house.
Wow.
Hi, Mr. Jameson. Hi, Aubrey. There's lunch on the table for you.
Wow.
And they take lunch, and I go practice. It was just a different time,
Wow.
different thinking, I guess.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
that's super cool because that was not my experience.
no, I know a lot of I know. So I mean, I teach kids a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I know the drama, as far
Mm.
as how do we get it so that they can practice without a lot of sound. But I'm playing wide open. There were no sound offs back then, and the band would come over, we'd play, and that year, we started playing harder music. So we started playing Queen, and then we started playing Rush.
Mm.
We were able to get through all of 2112.
Really? Wow.
And now, I'd like to hear the tape to see how accurate it was. But we had a vibe. We had the vibe,
Did you have fun?
oh yeah,
There you go.
yeah, for sure. It was,
Yeah.
and we were very proud of ourselves, that we could play this difficult music. And I think from what I remember, I think we were pretty in there. I think we were pretty in there. There's probably a few things that rhythmically that we kind of may have been guessing at, but for the most part, I think we had it. And by then I had built up my drum set to have two bass drums and
The whole bit, yeah.
concert toms, and I bored the high school chimes, and started writing music that involved all this stuff. I had orchestra bell. I had a whole setup, so I was very inspired by Neil Peart, right? And we were writing different, like, our own tunes. We started taking Mahavishnu orchestra licks and weaving them into our songs. We were like 15.
Well, that is I remember that is the age where you're really digging into everything. You're really discovering everything. Like
Exactly.
like my first Rush tape was around that age.
Yeah.
For me, it was Chronicles, and then and it was like listening to it every day, like some sort of religion.
Yeah, and your brain's like,
yeah, and you're going downstairs trying to figure out what the hell's happening, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And play rewind to the point where the tape is stretching, and the whole bit. So yeah, it's I mean, it's the age to do it. You got nothing else to do. So
and well, back then too, especially my generation, there was no very little distractions. There was no internet, there was no games, there was no
that
nothing.
is true. Right.
So this was I always tell people that the drums was my video game. And I would pay that much attention to it, right? So that's sort of, and by starting to play, listening to Genesis and listening to progressive rock and roll and like Brand X, I started to understand electric jazz first, with Return to Forever and Mahavishnu Orchestra, Brand X, like I said, Larry Coryell, and just I was starting to understand that the drums were a very deep thing, and music in general, there's a lot going on. So I started to not pay attention as much to rock quite as much, and started to try to figure out jazz, because my sister, my second oldest sister, Charmaine, who has passed, she passed in 2001. Unfortunately, she one day I was listening to Moby Dick.
Right.
So I'm listening to Moby Dick, thinking this is the deepest drumming ever on the face of the planet, right? And it is very deep. John Bonham's a great drummer. So she comes in the room and looks at me like, "So you want to be a drummer, huh?" All right. Leaves. Comes back a week later with Drum Night at Birdland on the Roulette label with Elvin Jones, Charlie Persip, Art Blakey, and Philly Joe Jones. It was like a night where they all played together.
Wow. Okay.
and it was like, I put it on and I took it off. I was like, what are they doing? Man, that's a lot of drumming. But then I saw that it scared me because it was so intense. And then when I looked at the pictures, these drum sets were that's small jazz 4-pieces. And I was like, oh no, how can you do that? With what? You know what I mean? And then the next time, a couple weeks later, she brought back an Anthony Braxton sax player and Max Roach duo record.
Okay.
So I had these 2 records that I had to just try to figure out. It was like a big tap on the shoulder, like, okay,
right,
this rock thing is great, and it is great, and the drummers in it are great, but there's more.
Right.
There's much, much, much more, and that set me on another path. Right.
I had that experience with Take 5.
Oh,
record.
Yeah. Oh,
and back in the day, and I was like, this really melodic, but what's going on? And how is he counting? How's he counting? Take 5. How's he doing?
How's he counting? Start like, what's going on?
Yeah.
If you don't understand the whole 5/4 thing.
Yeah. I'm like,
it's okay. Like, how is that working?
Usually there's a snare that tells me where I am.
Yeah. Where's that familiar?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah. And now I know, of course, but back then it was like, what's it?
Yeah. And it's scary at the same time as exciting, because you're opened up to something. Yeah.
Very nice. When does university come in for McGill and everything? Is that after all of this?
Yeah, so I went to Vanier, Vanier College, which I think it still has a pretty robust music program. I'm pretty sure it does. But it really did back in the like 70s and 80s,
Okay.
90s, especially in the 70s and 80s. It was
Okay.
like very famous in Montreal for a place to go for music. So I went there and uh, met some great players. Do you know Alan Bacillus? You
Doesn't
know,
ring a bell. Sorry.
no. Well, he's like a different generation now, which is weird to say, but true. And he's a great bass player and composer. He had a band in Canada called Boot Sauce back in the, I guess, early 90s. Anyways,
Oh yeah, that rings a bell though. I think
yeah,
I,
Boot
I think
Sauce hit for a while. They had some juice in Canada for sure.
yeah.
I know that. But he's a good friend of mine.
Okay.
I used to run with, and Greg Smith is another great drummer who lives in the Netherlands now and
Okay.
has a whole program there. Who else comes? Oh, Andre.
Oh,
Andre didn't go to Vanya. He went to Marionopolis.
okay.
But I feel like he did because that's when he and I met because we
Okay.
had the same snare drum teacher
Okay.
and we used to kind of pass each other and hang out a little bit. This is before McGill.
Okay. We're talking about Andre from the OSM, of course.
Yeah, Andre Malachenko, yes. And then, after Vanier, I got through that, and a little controversy.
Oh.
I got through minor. I actually didn't get my deck at Vanier. I got everything but one course,
Oh. Okay.
but I was good enough to get into McGill. Like I got the audition.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
got into McGill Classical, with Pierre Bellouz,
Oh. Okay. Yes.
and and I got in under something called the Licencia program, which, okay, cool. I'm like, great. I'm in. My parents are happy. So I'm in. And the deal was I was supposed to finish my deck
Oh. Okay. So,
before switching over.
position over.
But I was able to, there was a loophole where I could switch into the Bachelor of Music program anyways. I did.
If this is all illegal stuff, I'm not sure I want to know or declare it here.
Well, it doesn't matter because I graduated from McGill, so whatever.
There you go. That's the important part.
So I was able to switch over, and I did not have to look back on that stupid course. Like one course, like an elective. It wasn't even like a music.
Yeah, probably so, like philosophy or whatever.
Yeah, it was something, which meant I had to truck across town like twice a week to go back to that. I was like, so. Anyways, I got through that, and and that's where I met Andre Malachenko, another guy named Darcy Gray who teaches out in Halifax now. He was the head of McGill percussion for a while too.
Okay.
Yeah, we were real tight. Bob Slatkoff is another one. I think he's still in Montreal. Bob. I think Bob teaches at Vanier now. I'm not sure.
Possible.
Yeah, and anyway, so from there I got into McGill with Pierre, and I was always, I kind of stopped playing drums, sort of. Not sort of. I kind of did stop playing drums because percussion was so heavy. Just the amount of practice time it took to get this stuff under your fingers, right? Because you're playing the big three, mallets, timpani, and snare drum, and they all had to be at a really high level, right? So we were constantly practicing that stuff and learning music. And then there was the McGill Percussion Ensemble, which also took a lot of time and effort learning that music. And that was like a professional ensemble. They would do gigs. You would travel and actually do gigs in that.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Okay.
And recordings. And we did CBC recordings. It was
really
a serious ensemble. Yeah. And you're in it. Like if you're in the program, you're in that. It was kind of like that.
Oh, that's amazing. That's what you want to do. Yeah.
Which was amazing. It was, and it was really great experience. And try to deal with that pressure, and playing in the McGill Orchestra as well. A lot of pressure there. So it taught me a whole lot about that. But on the side, I started playing drums again, right? And I got in a couple of the jazz ensembles, and in the big band too. I wasn't taking drum set lessons. It was just going from, whatever I learned at Vanier and love. It was kind of like that kind of vibe. And the stuff I learned from there's a drummer at Vanier, Jacques Masson, who
Right.
Jacques.
Yes, I think he was Ralph sort of. Ralph Angelillo did sort of a tribute to him last year at the
Oh wow, that's
the
great.
Drum Fest, because I think he actually stopped teaching now and he was sort of retired.
Oh wow,
And
yeah,
if I recall correctly, I think that was him. And
yeah.
no, it was a beautiful moment.
Oh, I bet Jacques great, and he was a very kind of pure dude. Like yeah. I mean, yeah, he had a real down to earth way of approaching everything.
Hmm.
It wasn't necessarily systematic, but he opened my brain up to a bunch of stuff. So I used a lot of whatever I learned from him and McGill on my own, and met a bunch of really good jazz musicians there, and studied with theory with like Kevin Dean, who was the head of the program at the time. And then so then I thought I was going to try to get into Eastman School of Music after McGill.
McGill, yeah. That was my question. What made you prompt to go to New York?
Yeah. So it was kind of everything was a little bumpy getting to New York. It wasn't as straightforward as I would like to have been. I wanted to be a drummer now again, because honestly, I didn't really like the classical scene. You know what I mean?
Okay. Was it too, sorry to say the word, but was it too stiff? Was it too,
racist?
Oh, was it really?
Was it? Was it? Are you sure?
I mean, we can talk about it if you want. That's something.
Well, I mean, I ran into some things, and some things happened to me in that scene that I knew was going to keep happening.
Oh, really? That's sad. Okay.
But this is not now. You got to remember that, and it's harder to hear now because it's we've moved a couple of inches forward since then.
Mm-hmm.
And I stress inches, not feet. We've moved a few inches forward, and they're positive inches, and I'm happy for them, and I'm happy for our community in general, right? For everybody, not just for non-white people. But back then, it was a little different, and it was a little tougher. It was a little harder to be convincing once you walked in the door. Not impossible, it's just a lot harder. And the people before me, it was harder still, and so on and so on. And so I saw that it was, overall, I would just say that I could see that it was going to be a continuous fight and a continuous slog. And I was not going to get work at the same rate as my peers. You know what I mean? But
Right.
I was intuitive enough and I could see the writing on the wall that, okay, we could do this, but are you ready? Are you ready for this little war here that we're going to have to deal with? Right? Are you ready for that? And I decided that drums was probably going to be a simpler path. It's not. It's not simpler, but at least I felt like I was in better control. I felt that
there's more acceptance.
And also, I felt that if there wasn't acceptance, there's something I could do about it, like in terms of my own improvement. I felt like the criterion was more honest. You know what I mean? Like
you're either a good player or not a good player, and
boom, and the evidence is right there,
Mm-hmm.
right there. Because the music is happening now. It's new music. It's not something that's being preordained over decades, if not hundreds of years.
Right. For the classical stuff. Right.
Culturally, it's not associated with one culture. It's not European, for the most part. So it left open a lot more flexibility in terms of acceptance. And you're right, And then I was proven correct by when I did finally. I went to let me back up a sec. I went to Eastman School of Music. So I wanted to study with John Beck. John Beck, Steve Gadd's teacher, is mostly a classical percussion teacher, really. So it was almost like I was under influence of some strange drug like heroin or something. Like, I'm gonna go back. You know, the thing that's hurting me, I'm gonna continue doing.
Yeah.
So I went and I did this audition, and he was really impressed with this mallet piece I played.
Oh, cool.
By was it Keiko Abe? It was a Japanese piece.
Okay.
And he goes, "Oh, that's beautiful. I'm gonna have my students play that." And I played a nice little snare drum thing. Then I played the drums, and the drums were. He was like they were. I played okay, but he could tell that I hadn't really been playing the drums. You know,
I had more fun, sort of thing.
well, no, he could just tell, but I didn't really take time to study the technique, like just to really sit with the kit and play it at a high level.
Okay.
To study at a high level, he could just hear it. So he was kind of like, "Well, it says," and he kept saying, "It says here you want to go into drums." Like he was kind of like, "Why are you coming here?" You know what I mean? And he said it like 2 or 3 times, like, "Well,
kind of wondering
okay, okay," but needless to say, I did not get it because, like, it's not really a drum set program. Eastman School, it's more. There are drummers there, but I needed a drum teacher at the time, and he can kind of hear that. I need someone who's going to sit and really study the instrument. So in the meantime, so that I was kind of set adrift now after McGill, because like, oh my God, I didn't get into that school. What am I going to do? So Camille Belle-Ile, do you know him?
Yes, very nice. Yeah, Camille is how do I explain this? I did the auditions for Drummondville, for Cégep of Drummondville, and Camille was the teacher.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I've been practicing how many hours of the swing and the this and the that, and he and I sat down with him and I played something, and he's like, "Well, there's still a bit of rock in there, but I can hear that you understand, like,
What's going on? Yeah.
the swing and that. Hey, I could do something with that." And he was one of the first ones to sort of encourage me that, the swing part, I had something there that I could work on and everything. And he really sort of, I don't know, sort of encouraged me to come to Drummondville. I didn't go in the end. I went somewhere else, but he was one of the ones that was encouraging me to come.
Like, yeah, come by. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had a very, for a 17-year-old, that's
a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a big compliment to be given as a 17-year-old. So I'll always remember that part, that audition with him. Yeah. But yes.
So Camille came in. I was working at a music store at the time, and Camille walked in, and he recognized me. "Hey, man, what's happening?" "Oh, we're hanging out, we're talking, boom, boom, boom." And I go, "Yeah, I'm really not sure what I'm gonna do. I finished McGill, and I didn't get into Eastman." And he goes, "Oh yeah, that's a drag, man." So I go, "I'm not sure what to do." He goes, "You know what you should do? You know what you should do, especially you. You know what you should do, because you play so good. You should study with Jim Blackley."
Oh, I know that name. I know that name.
I was like, "Jim Blackley? Who's that?" He says, "Oh my God, Jim Blackley." He's like, you got to stay with Jim. He will hook you up. You will be straight." Like he was really hyped about it. I think he even gave me Jim's. Yeah, he gave me Jim's number. Gave me Jim's number, and I called up Jim, and Jim was a Scottish guy. I can't do a Scottish accent. He was like, "Okay, lad." Sounds good. He goes, "Lad, it sounds like you went to McGill. I would love to teach you. I know you must have great technique. Boom, boom, boom. But I have a waiting list." That's how popular Jim was. So he had a waiting list of about 3 months. And sure enough, 3 months later, he called me and says, "Oh, an opening's up. Come on to Toronto."
Okay.
And I would save up my money all month, and I would spend $80. The whole thing cost me, I think, $100. It was $80, no, $120. That's $80 for the lesson once a month, and then the train fee there and back.
Yeah, we're back. Yeah.
And I did that for 2 years with him, and Jim at the time was renting Terry Clark's house. I found out from Terry Clark later. He goes, "Yeah, he was my tenant." I was like, "What?"
But that name does ring a bell. I can't remember why. I think he taught maybe one of my teachers back in the day, but I can't remember.
He taught a lot of folks. He taught a lot of guys. But so Jim got me practicing the swing properly. This sort of got me oriented to the kit, got me way more familiar with how the drums worked, and just how my body reacted to them. Understanding, got my reading happening, like drum set reading, just interpretation, I should say. I could read from the other stuff, but just how to deal with setting up things, all that drummy stuff. He was putting into perspective, right? So from there, then that's when I had the confidence to go and audition at Manhattan School of Music.
Okay.
And it was my wife, believe it or not. I didn't really think of doing that. I didn't really think of leaving Canada. Not really. My wife was like, you want to be you want to do this, right? And I was like, yeah. Well, how are you going to do it here? I was like, what do you mean? Montreal's cool. There's a lot going on. Like,
but that's, yeah. That's
it. Do it. Do you want to go to New York? You've always wanted to go to New York. We had a picture of New York skyline in our living room. You've always wanted to go to New York. Let's go audition. So, my mother-in-law scraped up some money and flew down to do this audition. They took a vacation and I did the audition. And I nailed it, thanks to Jim Blackley. I nailed it, not so much that I had a lot of chops or anything flashy to show. What I got from Jim was a real solid feel, like really relaxed, solid swing feel. And they all noticed it, like right away. And they had Willard Dyson, who's a really great drummer. I think he lives in Philly now. And he was like the #1 drummer at the time, helping with the auditions. And he sat there and he looked at him and he pointed and said, "This one." And so I was like, oh, I think I got it, right? So sure enough, yeah, I got that one. And I got a little bit of bread too, a little bit of money from them to help with the tuition.
Oh, wow. That's very nice. That's very nice.
And those are the days when it didn't cost you, you
right.
didn't have to be rich to go to university.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the States, my God. Yes.
Even down there, it wasn't that terrible yet. Yeah. It wasn't cheap, but it wasn't like it is now.
Like it is today. Yeah, no, for sure. If you look up, Berkeley or any of these places today, it's just ridiculous.
And kids ask me, is it worth going to school? And I can't. It's a hard answer.
It is. Yeah.
It's not straight, because like I'm going to tell them, encourage you to go into tens of thousands of dollars of debt in music.
Yeah.
It's hard to recoup that.
Yeah.
It
takes a while. Yeah.
It's like,
but going back to your point of going to New York, that's a point some of my profs have made. Says if you want to do this, you can't stick around in Gatineau. Yeah, you gotta go where the music is, sort of thing. And I remember also at the Drum Fest, Liberty DeVito was one of my all-time heroes, because I'm a huge Billy Joel fan.
Right, sure.
And got to meet him and stuff. And he's saying, if you want to do this, you got to move where the music is. You can't stay in your little,
you can't be in your box.
In your box, sort of thing. You got to go where the music is and face it. And back in those days, I was like, okay, yeah, I understand, sure, whatever. But today I'm like, oh man, that makes a lot of sense today.
Yeah. And so I did that, and school was Manhattan School of Music, by the way, was a lot easier.
well, quickly, did at least the classical stuff help you in any way?
Totally did. Yeah, it totally did.
Yeah,
it totally did. It just because it was such a grueling pace at McGill.
Right. Between
the instruments in classical percussion and the high standards of theory and ear training and sight singing and history, and everything was at a super high level at McGill. Like super high level, real bone crunching, honestly. Like at the end of a semester, you're punch drunk, like, wow, what did I survive?
Yeah, no, exactly.
When I got down there, the musicianship was outstanding at Manhattan School of Music and all around. But I would say like the other stuff was kind of relaxed. It wasn't that difficult. I got to also maybe I was better. McGill had made me a better musician overall, so maybe that's also why maybe
you didn't find it as
taxing.
Taxing, pressure filled.
It might have been that. It might have been that.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, I was more focused on because now I was in it. Like I was in it in a desperate way. I was in it when Greg Hutch was in it. He was one of my best. He was the first person I met when I went to Manhattan School of Music. Was Greg Hutchinson on the one train going downtown. Hi, I'm Gregory. It was like that, and we became fast friends. I knew his mom, Diane, and we used to hang out. I used to go to Brooklyn all the time, spend summers in Brooklyn, hanging with him, and I'd learn. I'm sitting there learning from the 17-year-old kid. Like he was a little virtuoso, Greg?
Already, yeah. Okay.
And
I know of the name. I haven't checked out some of his stuff, but I've heard the name many times.
That brother's a bad cat. Woo! Greg. And he's always been like that. Like, I don't know a time when Greg didn't sound the way he sounds now. He sounds like he was when he was a kid, but now he's like mature. Now he's like really play, like really, really play. And but he's also one of the nicest people on the planet. Even then, he was like unusually mature for his age. He was 17 going on 45. Just one of those people with just an old soul. And he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot. This kid is teaching me a lot about what it was to be in a New York drummer, and just how it was and had. I mean, I didn't have the kind of chops that Greg had then. I didn't have the kind of experience even that Greg had. But the New York scenes. The reason I loved New York because they would accept you in a way that was very warm and welcoming. And that was my experience.
Okay, I see.
And it was and you become friends first, and they respect you. Whatever you have to offer. That's something. And then internally, because you have that acceptance, you can start to build on it. And when you go out to see someone play, like I went out once to see a band called Quest at a place called Visiones downtown, and it was like about 7 people in the audience.
Okay.
Like we're not used to that. We used to, seeing musicians of that caliber. It's always packed. Well, no, not this night, not this Tuesday night, or whatever it was. And so the band comes off stage just face melting greatness. Richie Byrack and Billy Hart, and Billy Hart comes up and is walking by. I go, hey, Billy, I just bought this record of his. He didn't make a lot of records, Billy Hart, but I had this old record of his. I just bought something. He goes, oh, comes and sits down and spends his whole break, like an hour with me. Just
really, wow, that's very nice.
Talking about everything, brushwork, symbols, going space. Hey, man, you see the space? Just that to me represents New York.
That's very nice.
That there's a sense that there's a just like you and I are doing right now. We're hanging out, right? But that would happen with anybody. You could talk to anybody like that, and that was new to me because these guys were stars in my eyes, right? So for them suddenly just to break it down and say, "Oh yeah, man, just where are you playing next? I'll come check you out." And they would. I just in school.
Give me a year or 2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, same thing with I met Omar Hakim once, same
nice.
thing up in White Plains, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to Manhattan. Oh, cool, Justin DeJocho, that's my man. Say hey for me, and I'm not used to that because we see them on the screen, we see them in theaters, we don't go and talk to them.
Right.
These aren't people.
Yeah. But Omar is really laid back. Like I've met a lot of my heroes, and Omar. Yeah, I think it was a clinic somewhere Ralph had put up somewhere in Quebec, and he was just so.
He's chill. Particularly laid back.
Yeah, he was so chill. He was so and this guy's played with Madonna, Sting. I mean, you need everybody, and he was just so chill. And he was like, "Hey, so who, what's you? Blah blah blah."
He's as interested in you as you are. and genuinely, you
Yeah.
know, genuinely.
And spent 5 minutes with him, and he smiled with the photo. He wasn't like, okay, photo. He was,
Yeah,
the whole
he's
thing.
real. He's
Yeah.
the real deal. Yeah.
So no.
So
I,
that's what I said.
I have to move it along because we're already 45 minutes into it.
I
And I have
know.
so many questions.
I'll speed up.
but
I'll speed up.
to
I
get
promise.
to get to the point of New York is New York where everything starts with the artists, with Popper and Vernon and all these people that you started to play with.
So to move very quickly, as I spent more time there, started to play with more and more people, and got into the Black Rock Coalition, for instance, which opened me up to Vernon Reid and his whole crew.
Mm-hmm.
And then from playing with like David Gilmour and a band called Blueprint, I started playing with like opposite other musicians who were playing in other scenes. So that's when I got in with Hassan Hakmoun
Okay.
because of that. And then with Hassan, we did a lot of touring in the world, in Europe, and with Peter Gabriel, which was magnificent. Really amazing.
That is something that's very interesting because
Yeah.
I mean, I am one of those people that doesn't know him much, and I discovered him, this week when I was listening to him, and really cool stuff.
Very interesting. Yeah, and it was a way to get my brain into that world concept more. So I started to meet other kinds of musicians, Africans, South Americans, and jam with some of them and learn pieces of this and that. And working in that environment, having to translate what they're talking about into my Western brain.
Right.
That was the thing too that I had to kind of figure out, which was very helpful and made me grow. And of course, Peter Gabriel was just like a great person in terms of helping out people from around the world and putting them on a bigger stage.
Right. So how was that tour? How was that like to?
Oh, amazing! Just like absolutely amazing. Like his band, Peter's band, was magnificent. I used to sit at the side of the stage and take notes from Manu Katché. Just like, what the hell is that? What's that?
Yeah.
And Manu's very, very chill. We didn't talk much about drumming, but really nice guy. Met Paula Cole and did a bunch of things, with that crew. But that was a great experience, and also just to play on large stages like that was really interesting. Met Billy Cobham through that as well.
Oh wow,
Who's
another
a
hero.
of mine.
Very nice.
And because he was subbing for Manu for a while.
Okay.
And so that experience, then culminating in Woodstock '94, we did that, which you can see online.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah.
So if y'all want to check that out and see us with like trying to fight down this rambunctious crowd, they wanted to listen to Green Day.
I know.
And then these Negroes show up. God damn it, they were not ready. It's like, who is that? So anyways, by the end of it though, we had them.
Exactly.
We turned them. So that was cool. From there, then I started working in a band called God Street Wine.
Okay.
God Street Wine were alumni. A lot of them were alumni from Manhattan School of Music.
Okay.
And but we had lost touch over about 5-6 years, and their rhythm section was leaving. So they called me up, and I'd start doing road work with them. And that was a jam band, which was part of the same crew as like Dave Matthews and Fish.
Right. That whole scene back in the day, right?
Blues Traveler and that whole scene. And that's from that. I got with a guy named Chris Barron, who's the lead singer of the Spin Doctors.
Oh wow! Okay, yes.
And actually, I'm still connected to Eric Shankman, who's a guitar player.
Right?
Eric here in Toronto, and so Spin Doctors, and through that, he was playing with a keyboard player, Rob Flores, who I knew was in my class in Manhattan School of Music.
See, there you go.
Well, all these connections, and Popper was going out on his own because I guess Blues Travel was on hiatus, and John wanted he made a record and wanted to keep touring. So we hired this band, and Rob recommended me. So we ran around America for about 18 months, a couple of years. did a bunch of TV shows and whatnot, and the whole rock and roll drama.
and how is that from Hassan, for instance? Hassan, is it
Yeah, well, it was just different in that it was very American, you
okay?
know? Yeah, that's interesting because the Hassan thing was more of an international, had a European international feel, meeting a lot more world musicians. And whereas I found with John and with God Street Wine, I kind of started to understand what it's like to go through the heart of America. It almost sounds corny, but it is a thing, just going to these smaller markets
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
going to markets that may not be great for me with my color, like having to understand what that's about. And
Mm.
you experience America in every way, good and bad. Mostly good, though. America's an amazing country.
Having toured there with my own percussion group a lot, yeah, even for me, it's special. For some places, it's even for me, it's special because there's things that
Yeah,
are said, and you're like, really, okay,
seriously, I
okay,
know, right? Especially
yeah,
when a guy like you come from a very different culture.
yeah.
It's shocking. Like, wow, you are pretty small-minded. Like it's shock. Or at the same time, surprisingly, I found that I was the one who was, being, if you want to use the word prejudice, you could use that. Not necessarily
Mhm,
racially prejudiced, just generally what I thought of the people there,
mm,
and realizing like, oh, bad boy,
mhm, mhm,
why
mhm.
would you expect that just because they sound this way or
A
that,
a certain accent, right, 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 right,
or
right.
dress this way or dress that way? Why would
Exactly.
you think that they had these other qualities?
Mhm,
And I found that was an eye opener for me. Was like,
mhm.
okay, what's good for the goose, good for the gander, kind of thing. You have to check yourself.
But it's a big country, so there's so many views and there's so many ways of thinking. I mean, you could be
Yeah,
in one part of it and it thinks away. It could be another part, it thinks a different. I mean, it's such a huge country that
huge country, lots
you're
of
bound to find you're bound to find yourself in front of different views and different, ways of thinking, of living, and
yeah,
values. And yeah, it's I love to go there. I love to play there. I love to
yeah,
visit. There's beautiful places.
yeah.
I do love
I
to come back
remember.
home though.
Yeah, I mean, I did like living there too. I got to
Yeah,
admit, I, I
yeah,
I still have very dear friends, and
yeah.
I
No,
lived in
exactly.
New Jersey, and it was a great thing for my wife and I.
Mhm.
The other thing with the John Popper experience was one more celebrity than Peter Gabriel's. Well, because Peter was at a level where it was sort of like being on the Concorde and
Right, right.
zipping around kind of. Whereas, John, it was more like a tour bus feeling.
Mhm.
And, and, you would, who knows, yeah, Will Lee's on the bus. Oh, Cameron
Nice,
Diaz is on the bus. It
nice.
was because John had that celebrity.
Mhm.
He has that sort of Hollywood thing.
No, no.
And so you'd meet a lot of people, and it taught me a whole lot about celebrities, that most of what you see isn't really how they are,
Mhm, mhm.
and that's something I wasn't hip to, and most people aren't. What you see and what you see and what they gossip about, it's almost like a character compared to the actual person.
Mm.
Some people are much nastier than they look, and some people are so much nicer than you think.
I think, yeah.
And that's human nature, right?
Yeah.
That's just how that is.
It's funny because an interview, Paul McCartney talks about with Stephen Colbert some years ago, and he's like, "How do you deal with the fame?" He says, "Well, that's the other guy.
Yeah.
That's the other guy, the
There
fame
you
guy.
go.
I
Yeah.
know him, but that's the other guy. That
Yeah.
I'm Paul,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's and when he said that, I kind of understood,
It
right?
clicked. Yeah.
There's that guy you put in the front, and then
Yeah. Because so there was John, the celebrity, the fat, boisterous sort of Santa Claus who plays harp great and tears the place apart with his voice. And then there's, at the time, really insecure, kind
mm-hmm,
of his over thing. He was way overweight. He was
hmm.
worried about his health. He was like a guy who we had to comfort like anybody else,
Yeah,
just another
exactly.
guy trying to get through the day.
Mm, mm.
Brilliant, mind you, but still just a guy. You know? So, and then from that, it kind of circled back around to playing with, on all this time, I've been playing with James Blood Ulmer. All that time, I've been playing with him. And he's the one who really brought me around the world and also introduced me to a lot of jazz musicians.
Okay.
Sonny Rollins to Hamiet Blewett to Oliver Lake to like almost you name it,
And for those who don't know him, could you just explain who he is exactly?
So James Blood Ulmer became famous playing something called harmonic music with Ornette Coleman. So it comes out of the Ornette Coleman sort of camp.
Okay.
Him and Billy Higgins, but at the same time, they had this avant-garde harmonic approach to music, very aggressive, and had a bunch of records like "Are You Glad to Be in America," "Black and Blue," what a Blues Experience. There's a bunch of Black Rock was a very big record of his, Black Rock, and all of those are worth checking out. But he also went into the blues. He also was a singer, so he would throw down some heavy funk, right? But then in the next bit,
some sort of bluesy something.
Yeah, he would just like leave the planet. So that was sort of his thing, and still is. And he was. I started playing with him in 1993. I think it was 93, and in fact, there's a record we made called "Live at the Bayerischerhof." The Bayerischerhof is has a very famous jazz club in it that every single person has played at.
Okay, I don't know it. Okay,
it's in Munich. It's a big hotel, very posh hotel in Bavaria in Munich.
Okay,
called the Bayerischerhof. And we made this live recording there. So it's James Blood Ulmer Blues Experience at the Bayerischerhof. I recommend you guys check that one out.
I will. I'll check it out.
It's and that one has very much what I'm describing. It's mostly like a hard-hitting groove record, but there's a couple of tunes in there where he's he's been compared to Jimi Hendrix. Because he has a very dark, gruff voice when he sings. Very heavy, big, dark, gruff voice. But the guitar playing is very unique because he's able to get a drone happening. He always sounds like two guitar players.
Okay.
Always. That's part of his sound, just the way he plays. So very influential musician, and introduced me to a lot of folks. Sam Rivers, I played with Sam Rivers with him, and he was sort of taught me how to play.
Okay.
There's like playing, and then there's like, okay, now you got to play now.
In the sense that you gotta not think too much, but more.
Yeah, you gotta like all that stuff. Great. That's great. Put that aside, and I want to hear you play now. That's sort of the attitude he had in general, and which was hard to live up to. It wasn't just about this or that technique or this or that, whatever you had learned. It was everything you had learned, but nothing that you had learned.
Well, I think I know what you mean, in the sense that you're applying whatever it is you learned, but you're not thinking, oh, I'm going to play this 8-note fill, whatever. I'm going to end on one and then do the syncopated. You're like, no, this is shut off, and I'm just responding to whatever's going on.
Yeah, exactly. It's more. I want you to express yourself.
Yeah.
And I want you to. That's why I've hired you, because I like the way you express yourself. So that's what I'm looking for. I don't really care if the thing is slick or not. If it's slick, nice, but I don't really care. I just want you to express yourself, and that taught me a lot. And it was night after night of that. Just like, come on.
Very nice. That must be freeing. Actually, that must be really freeing.
It was. It was also scary because I had to reach down deep, right?
Right.
I had to try to keep up. And looking back, I think I did. From there, I'm trying to move this along for you now. From there,
No, we're doing good now.
Vernon,
There's
Reid.
another at least 20 minutes, 25 minutes for
Oh,
the
good. Okay,
teaching
I can
stuff.
relax.
And, yeah.
Okay, good. So, so that had been going on that whole time. I've been playing all those other, with Gabriel and Popper and everything. Blood had always been there. In fact, I got to call him this weekend just to say hello. He's old now. He's like 83.
Okay.
So, he's an old man. He's not really going out that much. He always says he is. I'm like, yeah, sure you are. Please stay home and stay alive. How about that? Let's do that.
But is that how the connection with Vernon Reid
Yeah.
from Living Color started? Yeah.
Yeah, because Vernon, that's why Vernon created the Black Rock Coalition, right? With black rock and pop musicians in New York. Once Living Color hit, that gave them a platform.
The platform to do that.
And they were able to coalesce with other more popular black rock bands like Bad Brains,
Right. Yes.
Fishbone.
Right. Yes.
To name a couple for sure. And then there was like another level down from there who were also phenomenal. I was in a band called Blueprint, part of the coalition. There's PBR Street Gang. That was one where the bass player from Blood, James Blood Ulmer, who pulled me into that, was in. So because of my affiliation with Blueprint and the Black Rock Coalition, I got with James Blood Ulmer.
Okay.
So basically, there was a group of black musicians, probably total maybe, I would guess about 50 to 100 of us, in different bands playing in this coalition. And we were all really supportive. And, it was like a really cool sort of group of folks.
Mm-hmm.
A few of them had deals, most didn't, but were still great. And some were affiliated with larger projects. So it was kind of like that kind of thing. But Vernon was there to help facilitate as best he could.
Okay. And help other groups to be
Exactly.
performing and doing
exactly.
stuff.
And they'd hold events and stuff. Him and Graham Haynes put it together. So Vernon was obviously very close with Blood at the time. Well, for a long time. And in the early 2000s, he wanted to make a blues record with Blood. He really wanted to make this blues record, but James Blood Ulmer did not want to make a straight blues record.
Right.
I think this was because in their household, the whole religion as opposed to secular music, blues was considered the devil music.
Okay.
So his mom did not want him to sing the blues like ever.
That's an interesting. Okay, that's an interesting.
So he was very resistant to doing this project. He was like, "I'm not doing that." Just grumble about it. Where do you want me to play this? I'm down to goddamn blues. I said, Damu. We used to be calling him Damu. That's his Muslim name. Damu. I think it would be a good record, man. We should do. And so that went on for about 4 months of Vernon constantly trying to get him. So finally, I get a call from Vernon, dude, we're gonna go do this thing. And then, in the meantime, Vernon and I had gotten close because we lived around the corner from each other in Staten Island.
Okay. When you were studying or back in the day?
No, this is after I lived there for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we actually run into each other, like at the video store and stuff, and he calls me, and I'd asked him to play on a track of mine for one of my own records. And so we've gotten sort of closer. We weren't really friends yet, but we were closer.
Right.
And so he called me and says, "Yeah, I want to make this thing with Blood, and we're going to do this. Let's just go do a demo. Let's go do a demo. And if it sounds like anything, it'll be something." So we went into Manhattan and did this demo with a variety of musicians, with me and the bass player from Blood Ulmer, David Barnes, who was the keyboard player at the time? Vernon. Oh yeah, Leon was on that too. And we put this quick demo together and it sounded real good. So we went down to Memphis that got him going. And we found a record company, and that got Blood like, oh,
Really
okay,
excited, right?
okay, all right, let's do this then. So we went down to Sun Studios.
Oh, I've been there. It's very nice.
Very cool. It's
Yeah.
very cool. Went down to Sun Studios, and we over 2 days at Sun Studios, we made the first Memphis Blood record. It'd be called James Blood Ulmer Memphis Blood featuring Vernon Reid. That's the
Very
band.
nice. Very nice.
And we made that record, and it was really an experience. You know, the linoleum floors, the old.
Yes.
It's like, whoa, this little room. It's like,
right. All right. There's 2 studios. Last time I was there a couple of years ago, but there's a digital one.
Oh, is there now?
Yeah, there's a one where you can use. Well, I mean, it's the same room, but you can use the digital.
Oh, they brought it. They didn't have that then.
Yeah.
They didn't have the digital portion.
And you can use the analog stuff, but it's the same room. It's the same linoleum. You know, the drum sets in the back. I actually sat on it and everything, and
on that kit, right?
Yeah.
That was the last record I made to 2-inch tape, and that was in 2000. Yeah, like late 2000.
Okay.
Late 2000, early 2001.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and that bad boy got traction. It got nominated for a Grammy. And that was like, I was like, oh, so that really got blood.
Is this the Memphis Blood record?
Yeah, the first one. So it's Memphis Blood at Sun Studios, and it's really worth checking out. It's like a very warm, relaxed, kind of down home feel to it, you know. And it did really well. But at the time, who's that young boy? Steve Jordan played with him. He's like, kind of has rock star status with the blues though.
John Mayer?
Yeah, I guess him. Yeah. He's the one who won that year.
Oh, okay. Well, you know,
I know our record was better. I mean, I'm on it. Just I listened to that record. And I was like, oh, I know why he won, because he's young and pretty and white, and it's all good. So that's the world we live in, right? So, but nonetheless, he got the Grammy nomination, which was cool because it put the band on the road, and we did a bunch of touring because of that, which was really, really good. And that's nice. That's when Vernon and I got much tighter. Like, we became good friends. And we still are. And we've done lots of shows together. And I've hired him to come up to Toronto and play with some of my bands. And I played some stuff. So he's become, I'll just call him just to talk shit. He's very funny. Vernon will kill you.
Well, I'm gonna admit it. I'm a huge Living Colour fan. Ever since, ever since the second record that came out back in the early '90s.
Yeah. Oh, I was even deeper. I just moved to New York to go to the Manhattan School of Music, and I was in a place called Tower Records, uptown, near Lincoln Center. And back then, they used to play like the popular songs on like up in the speakers, whatever's happening. And I'm sitting with a friend of mine, and I'm looking through the jazz section, and all of a sudden, we're gonna get right down to it.
That song,
Cult of Personality starts up. I was like, "What is that?" Like, whoa! It was one of those things where everybody kind of stopped what they were doing and like, "Whoa!
Yeah,
what's that?"
Yeah,
because nothing had that. It was the funk rock feel. It has the rock,
right?
But it was the underlying R&B feel.
Yeah, it wasn't that sort of trashy stuff. It was like
it's like bottom up, right?
Yeah,
bottom up, and that's now I'm analyzing it, but that's what it was that got you. Who would have known that I'd end up playing with the dude.
Well, that's really cool. But just to go back to Vernon, yeah, it is funny because I finally went to see them after 30 years of never ever
Oh,
seeing them.
great! Yeah.
I went to see them in Burlington this summer, and
Oh,
and
great.
I want to praise them because I saw Foo Fighters, Robert Plant, and I saw all these guys, and I loved
Yeah.
them. But Living Color at Burlington in this little club was my favorite show the whole summer because I was literally like, I don't know, 10 feet away from them. They were playing. There was no backing tracks. They were all like, improvising. They did stuff at some point where basically Corey was doing a vocal thing, a rhythm thing, and keeping the beat. They are all in the back of him, sort of improvised. And I don't know how or why or whatever concoction, but they all stopped at that, all together. And it was just stuff they were doing. And I was like, oh my God. Like, and Corey's like still got the voice after all these years.
Strong.
I mean, it goes to the high notes and it's like
the thing. I know that's really impressive because the stuff he does with his voice.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Corey, he's like he sheds at it. He does exercise. He doesn't just go up there and scream.
No, exactly.
He's like a singer.
And there's other bands which I won't name, but there's other bands that were my favorites when I was a kid, and I'm listening to them and they're doing stadium tours, and I'm like, really, I mean, that sounds really off, like, and I'm looking at them because like, why aren't you there? Like, you deserve to be there, sort of thing,
Well, that's a very deep and intense question.
But I don't want to go because that would may take a whole episode. Right now.
Yeah, but the thing, those brothers are getting better, actually.
Yeah, no, exactly.
They're improving. They're not like they're actually growing. Well, they get better because they do a diverse amount of other activities. That's really why they're getting better.
Yeah.
Will is one of my not best friends, but we're very good friends. Will Calhoun, and I've gone up to his house and we hung a lot. And the things that he's into are so deep, culturally, spiritually, and then there's the drumming.
I mean, again, it was one of those. To go back to one of those, put the record on, like, what the hell is this, from This Is the Life to to all these other tracks that you don't necessarily hit, you go, oh wow, what the hell is that? Sort of thing.
Very deep, and there's a lot of depth, and at the same time they're very lighthearted people.
Well, which brings me back to why I was talking about them, because at the other thing that they did on stage that I didn't see other people do is that Corey and Vernon would banter each other in between songs, and it was the most hilarious thing ever. They were like, you know what, Corey, shut up, just or like just start the damn song, sort of thing.
That's Vernon though, because when he plays with me, it's terrible. If you, it's like
well, he seemed to be the one to
get on the mic and start telling stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Brother, whose gig is this, anyways?
No, exactly. Like I thought Corey was a singer, but I guess Vern is the one that tells stories throughout the night. So no, I know it was, but I loved it. I just loved it. I didn't expect it. So
well, but that's also the sort of modus operandi in that world, and the way he is with Blood Ulmer's band too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it because Vernon's so relaxed,
mm-hmm.
That it kind of if the way that, and I don't know if it's him who makes it happen or what, but it turns into like two friends, like the barbershop scenes, like it's like being in the barbershop just talking about whatever. It turns into that.
I see. Yeah.
And
exactly.
And then the crowd has fun.
Yeah.
That's the great part, is that it's not just about on stage, because the crowd sees how relaxed everything is, so they relax. And when the crowd's relaxed, you got them.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. But it felt like my bands. I mean, it felt like I, when I was like 18. Well, but it felt like I was 18 and.
Oh yeah.
What else? And you go up and you're supposed to be doing song after song, which is just so that really sucked. Yeah. And then, you start bantering for like 30 seconds and then you know what I mean? And I thought, oh wow, they're just like me when I was, starting with their Living Color,
It brings it down to earth.
Yeah.
So then when the music hits, it's that much more intense.
Yeah.
because it's not a garage band.
No,
like
not at all.
like not at all.
No, we had the same banter, but we didn't have the same talent.
Exactly. It's like, oh, when it hits, it hits. So that brings me to kind of what's been happening lately. A couple of things lately is right before the pandemic, I'd done this record with a band up here of mine called 13 Go, which you can see on Spotify and you can get on iTunes and stuff. But it never really got any traction because the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to market it really or anything. So I'm sort of beginning to try to do that now. And I'm hoping, in the next couple of years to get that rolling. And I know that, it's Vernon's always a phone call away. And he would come out as long as the schedules line up right and we can find enough budget, we can make it happen. So I'm very grateful to be a friend of his and that he likes my playing and likes my music. So that's a good thing. And he produced this record and played on it. And there's some pretty cool stuff. So it's called Domestic Tranquility by 13 Go. So that's the latest thing as far as he and I, our reaction, and which sort of dovetails into one of the things that I'm up to. Another thing that's kind of going on with me is I appreciate so much that you've checked out my YouTube channel, because the YouTube channel was a funny thing.
Well, and I'm glad you're talking about, because that is something I want to talk to you about today. Because yes, I think it's one of the better ones, honestly, because there's so many YouTube channels of like, check out this lick if you do this with your shower curtain and your your dog, and light this thing on fire. You'll be
the best drummer in the world
with the ladies, and I'm like, I don't care about that. I want to know. What? How do you play this? Why? What was the thought? What was that? What was the thought process behind that drum beat? And some of them do talk about that.
Yeah.
But I really like your approach in the sense that you actually play it first.
Right.
So and then you just sort of decipher it and just sort of analyze it, explain it. And I thought this really cool, because then you can, and also you add some history to it. You had some parts of history,
context, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. I think. I'm glad that you picked up on it. I do know that a lot of people are trying to sort of. I think people are trying to find ways to get more views, more so than educate.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. You've just started to get, exactly.
Exactly. That's probably what's happening. Yeah. And for me, I says, well, I don't know if I'm going to get a lot of views or not, but I figure I sure wish that someone would lay it out for me when I was coming up to make it a little easier to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could, like when I'm listening to a certain thing, if someone had just said, "Oh, it's this," then that's one more thing that I understand a little bit more, which helped me overall get better in my musicianship. Mm-hmm. And that's what I endeavor to do. It was also, honestly, it was kind of like a bit of a COVID hobby at first, Mm-hmm. I sort of started out making these videos, and then COVID hit, and I said, well, let me really do this.
Go into it, yeah.
And make it that way. It occupied me and gave me a chance to look back. I've come along several decades now from when I listened to a lot of these songs and heard some of these things. Well, how does my brain decipher this stuff now? And I was pleasantly surprised that I understood it a lot better.
Good. That's good.
So I said, well, let me start transcribing more, keep my brain going in my practice. Mm-hmm. And I wish I had done more transcribing when I was younger. And that's one thing I'd encourage young drummers to do, and I encourage my students to do, is transcribe something, anything, one bar, half a bar, a whole song, whatever, once a week. Do something. Because if you can understand what's been done expertly by somebody, then you can at least picture what that feels like to do. Not necessarily that you're going to use that in music yourself. You might. It might come out of you. It might, oh, wow, that was a such and such lick. Ooh, I didn't even mean to do that. It just happened because I
Mm-hmm.
practiced it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more the movement, the state of mind is what you're trying. That's what I'm endeavoring, at least, to understand.
Of these
What
videos.
does it feel like to play this thing that such and such plays? Oh, wow. First of all, that's a lot harder than I thought. Or, surprisingly, that really flows easily. That's brilliant. And often it's stuff that you wouldn't think of because it's not you, right? So
That's not your natural reaction to play something like
yeah,
that. Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if you can understand, like John Rowley, I stayed with John Rowley for a couple of years at Manhattan School of Music. If you can, he said, if you can understand, if you can put on their coat, that's how he said it. He goes like everyone has a coat, and if you can put on a coat and see what it feels like, that is something you can learn from. That's what this. Hey, wow, that fits kind of weird. I wouldn't wear this normally, but okay, that's what he likes to wear.
Mm.
Take off the coat, and that analogy really stuck with me. Some coats are very slick, like Steve Gadd's, and some have a lot of fur, like Elvin Jones.
I love the analogy.
Got a fur coat.
And when you wear it, it grunts when you wear it.
Grunts. That's right. So I've taken that to heart, and that has led me to check out a lot of different clothing of drum.
Well, I'm going to name some of my favorites, but there's so many. I really invite everybody to check out his YouTube channel. But some of my favorites, the first one is Bryce Wassey playing Inga Funk, and I don't know why, but I think Bryce should be really more known. He's just an amazing drummer. I'm one of those kids that heard the Jean-Luc Ponty record back in the day, Chakota, and was blown away. One of those, put it on and like, what is that sort of thing?
The Salute Keita stuff, which is terrifying.
And just went, oh wow, I gotta understand and learn and play the stuff. And you go on and explain his drumming, you go on and explain the style and everything, which is really cool. I don't know anybody else who actually has done that.
Right.
I would want to do it on my channel, but I'm terrified of screwing it up because I don't know enough of it.
I'm sure my stuff's not all correct, but I try. I mean, all we can do is try to do it as well as we can.
So that one I thought was I'd like to check out. Of course, Living Color's Little Pig intro, which I've always loved, but could never figure out. I just thought, okay, Will's going off, and that's about it. And I'll just respect the fact he's doing that.
Yeah, he is and he isn't. Pretty slick, right?
Yeah.
How he's thinking. And that, again, sometimes you can understand better how somebody's thinking. And then I don't know if you saw the interview with Will, but
I had parts of it. I haven't had time to check it all, but I will. Yes.
Yeah, he talks about that, and it's interesting when you hear, how someone's put together. The context makes a lot of sense. With that one, it was sort of they had tried it different ways at different tempos, and then they went with let's kind of make it more maniacal, just crazed because of the subject matter and so that's what he was inspired by. But it was still in the pocket though, and that it doesn't seem like it's in the pocket. But
I know that's the impressive part. I know that's the impressive part.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's still in the pocket.
Yeah.
You learn a lot. Some of the things that really opened my brain was Neil Peart, the thing I did from Hemispheres. That one, I was like, first it was harder than I thought. It was harder to do than I thought.
Are you talking about the Free Will song?
Free Will was harder technically than I thought. It wasn't that hard in terms of musically.
Right.
It was just something. There was a couple little speedy things that were challenging to play clean.
Right. True. Right.
That they're challenging to play really clean, and that gave me. I've always appreciated how hard Neil Peart worked and what he brought to the table technically, and that one was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. The breakdown in Free Will is quite something. I would imagine his coat is a lab coat.
This is a white lab coat.
It's got a calculator and it's got
That's right. That is very true. Because he would play it that way every night. That's the other thing,
Yeah,
right?
and exactly, you had to play that stuff
Like
exactly
that
to
every
a
night
T.
with no variation. So
Yeah.
his stuff was Free Will was yeah, it wasn't. I don't want to say it was not hard to play. It's pretty hard to play. Yeah, it's pretty hard to play. I was just in that middle section. There were some technical things that I had to run and work up a little bit, like lifting weights.
So ways to get there.
Yeah, the one that got me technically was, and it's funny because you know that it's a lot, but Tony Williams,
Okay.
Mr. Spock. Ooh, man, those Swiss triplets. Like you had to, I had to sit with that for a couple of days and just practice Swiss triplets, just try to get them up, you know.
I saw that video. I haven't checked it out yet because Tony Williams is one of those that terrifies me.
Yeah, he should.
Which I listen to. I understand what's going on. I'm like, God.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, and I have to check out that video. But yes, and Mr. Spock is one of those songs that, you know, it's like the song to start off with Tony because it's the more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not, you know, he starts with this sloshy hi-hat. I've talked about this before. Sloshy hi-hat, and then goes into this, you know, and switches it around to this jazz samba thing. And it's just like, okay, c'est bon.
Uncle.
Okay.
Yeah. But I do the solo in that, and it's wow, man. It's that one. When I got that, I was just like, oh. And then the other one that was like that, which I expected to be tough, is Two Bass Hit, which I did that one, the Billy Joe Jones, and
okay, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, that one, that's a technical monster.
Okay,
that one's tipping. You know, Tommy Campbell called me up. Damn, brother, you nailed what the? Oh my God, Aubrey! What the what? I said, Tommy, you can play that stuff in a coma. Don't even start with me.
Okay.
Tommy's so burning.
That's
but, yeah, that took a lot.
But two more I want to show. I want to, you know, because it may interest people's interest. Is the other one is the Dilla Beats, which is actually done by your son Kai. But honestly, for a drummer like me, who's, you know, come from the metal and the rush and, you know, everything's so, you know, precise.
Yeah.
When I would hear those beats from, you know, cars or next to me and, you know, summer day or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, one of those beats, and it's like, okay, yeah, it just sounds like Drunken Gary who just decided to do whatever, and then somebody was singing over it. I didn't understand until I saw that video that it was actually a concept that was actually made that way, and that was the point of making it that way. And then I had new respect for those sort of beats and understanding of those beats.
If you do them right, they're terribly funky.
Yeah.
If you get it right, that's the trick. A lot of folks, it ends up being drunken. It ends up being off. You know, if it's not done, that's why I asked. That's why I didn't do it. I was terrified of
being too straight. Right.
Yeah, there's something that you know, he was in the middle of. He's really into it at the time, and so I said, let's knock it out.
So I invited everyone to check that one out because it discussed the whole subject of not hitting the kick or the snare at the same time when there's a hi-hat, but purposely, and not just being a sloppy player, but that's the way that the Dilla beats were made. So that's a very interesting one to me. And
and doing it consistently, able to do it consistently, which is really impressive if you get it right. It's easier to program, really hard to play.
Right, exactly.
Really hard to play. But there's folks out there who work on it. You know, I honestly don't. You know, I'm an old man now, man. I can do what I can do. Okay. I can do what I can do, and that's what that is. Yeah. So you were gonna say something? Sorry.
No. I was just letting you. I
was gonna say then the coolest thing coming up, and you know, it's not great to talk about something before it's actually happened, but we're in negotiations right now with Hudson Music. Writing, there's contracts are on the table, so I guess I can talk about it. I don't want to jinx it, so far. But I've been working with Narada Michael Walden,
Nice.
who is a huge, I'm such a fan from when I was a kid.
Mm.
Like I said, when I was 14, 15, we used to, check out Mahavishnu bass lines, and I'd listen to that music with Nard on it, and I love Billy Cobham as well. The two of them were like
Right.
me, like this, and Narda would say Billy Cobham was like this, but so I worked on Cosmic Strut,
Okay.
and a friend of mine, Brad Calvin Weston, who's an amazing drummer out of Philadelphia. I suggest you check into him. He's my
Sure.
man. He also played with James Bud Ulmer over the years as well, and Ornette Coleman. And he's still more on the New York Philly scene, because he lives there. He's still there. Anyways, he knows Narada, and I think somehow pointed Narada to that video, to Cosmic Strut. And you can imagine, you wake up and there's in your inbox a letter from Narada Michael Walden
That says hi, and yeah.
I'm like, what? Totally bugging about this video, loving it. I'm like, what? And then he called me, and I'm like, what?
Nice.
So I was a little starstruck from that, and I still get starstruck from these people. I still do, even though I've been around them a lot.
No, I understand that. Sure.
It's such a thrill, because and then I started again. It's COVID, so I'm just at home transcribing.
Bring stuff, right.
And he goes, could you transcribe? Oh yeah. In the meantime, I says, oh cool, I'll do another one. So I did Eternity's Breath, #1. And he saw that, and he was just so grateful. He says, oh wow, this brings me back, and that whole sort of reawaken that whole thing in his head, from that time. And I went ahead and did #2. And now he's like, well, why don't you do Lead Boots?
No, he's just sending you recommend suggestions. Yeah.
What, brother? You taking requests? What's up? What?
Exactly.
So one thing led to another, and we put together a book.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Put together a book. And like I said, I hope I'm not jinxing it by letting the cat out the bag. But I did see a contract, so
I'll knock on fake wood. I have fake wood.
Knock on fake wood, tentatively. And the book is written. It took me. That's also why I've been quite quiet on YouTube.
Okay, because you've been doing that.
You might have wanted to ask that, because I haven't posted in months, and most of it is because doing the book took every ounce and every scintilla of energy, and transcribing. I transcribed 14 pieces.
Okay. That takes a while.
And if you know his playing,
it's busy.
That took some doing.
It's busy.
and I treated the book like I treat the YouTube channel, with explanations and video.
Right.
So you will see how the video corresponds to the stuff in the book. So that took time to record all that too. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe you can check back, or I'll send you an email when things are.
Yeah, for sure. I'll check back here Christmas or after Christmas, and maybe we'll do an update and show the book. Or something.
Maybe so. And what's that? Make it official. And to promote it properly. But that's what that's really was the biggest time consuming I did over the last year.
Okay.
And it was a joy to do. It was to get inside this guy's drumming head of that time.
Yeah. And he's a super drummer, but again, not as known as Billy or
he's known more as a producer.
Yeah.
For Whitney Houston
and
Aretha Franklin, and a long list of he's had a lot of #1 hits,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot. And they say you should never meet your heroes, but I tell you what, I'm sure glad I met him. He's such a truly, purely amazing person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just really beyond nice and warm. And I guess it's like it makes sense why so much success goes to a person like that.
Yeah, that's nice.
At least that's what I like to believe, because success sometimes doesn't go to nice people.
As you pointed out earlier with certain people.
Certain people. But I'm glad that that's one you're happy. Like, yes, that picture makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, that makes sense. He should be like that. He should have that success just because he deserves it because of the way he is and his natural genius. He's one of these guys who'll sit down and look at you and write a hit song at you.
Okay.
Yeah, he'd be talking to you and you'd say the word dog and it would turn into a hit.
You think about some subject about dog and then that's it.
And like deep though, like amazing chords, cool bass line, beautiful melody. He's like Steve Smith said, it's kind of freakish. Steve was like, yeah, it's a little freaky. You can do that.
Okay. I'll have to get him to get to know more of his producer side. I don't know as much that side.
Well, you do. You might not just know it's him.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. You'd be like, oh, okay,
yeah. It's like that. Oh, that's him too. Oh, and that's him too. Oh, that song's him. It's like that. Yeah. But so that's been a big thing. And in Canada, I've been working. In fact, I was in Montreal last winter.
Okay.
I was at what's upstairs.
Upstairs Jazz Club. Okay.
Yeah, I was upstairs with Shakura Saida.
I know the person. Okay.
Oh yeah, honest, like happening singer. She her last record is called "Hold On to Love." I'm not on it. I think Larnell's on it. I think Larnell.
Lewis. Yeah.
And who else is on that? Tony Bubalo. I think he's on it. And it's a great record. It's a great record. And anyway, so I've been touring with her. Just got back from Europe. We were in France and Belgium in 42-degree heat.
Yeah, they're in the heat wave in the summer over there, right? Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Europe's melting. We went real good. So we should be doing. We just played some hits, some gigs around here too in Ontario. Okay. We should be playing in the winter, and this date's booked already for next year. So that should.
That's nice.
That's nice. So Shakura Saida, look out for her. I should be with her unless she's doing some other solo thing.
Okay, cool. And I unfortunately have to end it there because we could go on and on.
You're probably trying to jam everything in near the end, right?
But no, you're doing great because that's what I was about to ask you. What's up for you in the next year? But you're already doing it, so you're making my job super easy. So that's great.
Good.
But cool. Well, I wish you the best for the book and for the upcoming tour. And if people want to reach out to you and YouTube channel. To check that out, where can they find all of that information?
So I, as stated before, go to Aubrey Drum Lessons. That's the YouTube channel. I do have an Instagram, which I sort of check under something called My Id Music. My Id Music. That's my Instagram. I didn't realize you could use my name at the time, so I used that.
It's my ID.
Yeah. And you can get 13 Go on Spotify. You can check that out.
Cool.
And you can also buy it on iTunes. Buying is good because it makes it easier to make more music. Buying is a good
That's
thing.
true. That is very true.
And I have a website, aubreydrumlessons.com. You can get to me through that. aubreydrumlessons.com. You can add like an email comment and I'll get that. Otherwise, you can email me at myid@music I tried doing that. That didn't work.
Hang on.
MYIT MYIDMUSIC.com. That wasn't easy. I do that in my head.
I'll try to write it down somewhere and show it to people.
Well, if it's on tape, they can rewind it and go, what did he say?
There you go.
So yeah, reach out. I do have private students. Which I teach a lot of folks via Zoom.
Okay.
And if you're in the Toronto area, come by the studio.
Sounds good.
Amazing. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Aubrey. That was quite a journey. Quite an interesting journey into your life, musical life. Very interesting. And thanks so much for spending time with us.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, Dennis. It was a riot. Fellow Montrealer. All right.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks so much, Aubrey, again, and wish you all the best next upcoming year.
Thank you. Take care, brother. All right.
Ciao. So there's our show for tonight. Thank you so much for sticking with us all night. Thank you, Aubrey, for coming to the show. I'm wishing you a great week. Come back next week for another episode of Drumfills Cafe. Until then, all the best and see you next week. Ciao.